Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live show. This is our k-trope-athon finale show, and we are going to be discussing welcome to Hyunam-dong Bookshop. What's the author's name again? I can't remember. Do you have a book there?
Hwang Bo-reum.
Hwang Bo-reum, thank you. By Hwang Bo-reum. And today I have my k-trope-athon co-hosts here with me. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Starting with Yoon.
Oh, okay. Hi everyone. I'm Yoon from Yoon. I am a co-host, though I feel like this time I'm like a co-sub host. But
no, not at all.
Very excited for this book discussion.
And Tiffany.
And I'm Tiffany. My channel name's Beautiful Minutia. I've been here for several of the events so far this month, so you've probably already seen my face and know who I am. But if not, that's who I
am. Yes. Thank you guys so much for doing this with me. And thank you to everybody who's here to chat with us. So let us know in the chats. It looks like Crystal's here.
Hi, Crystal. Hey, Crystal.
Welcome. We were really hoping you would be here to discuss with us.
Yes.
And if you are here and you want to say hello, we would love to hear from you in the chat.
Here we go.
So, yeah, should we start off with like general thoughts about the book, like at the most basic level?
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
All right. Now, well, Tiffany, would you like to start?
Sure. Yeah. So I really enjoyed this book. I really liked the way that it talked about books and kind of like the healing power of books and community. And I loved most of this book. So it's like a solid 4-star for me. I really liked it.
That's so good. I'm so glad. And you can let us know in the chat as well if you read the book, what your thoughts were about the book as well. How about you, Yoon?
I'm not gonna say I DNF'd it. I'll just say I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
I got a little over halfway in the book, and so I think I got pretty good amount of it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I could see how like it'd be a feel good or a comfort book, but I don't know, something about it felt not as in depth or emotional for me enough to connect with it or to feel. I don't know how much of that might change in the latter half of the book, but I was kind of like, it felt like very surface level, just seeing slice of life moments, but I needed to like get into those moments, but I couldn't. So no rating for now.
Okay.
Slice of life is a really good like description.
Yes.
Because that really does portray a lot of the feel of the book. It definitely feels like a slice of life.
Mm-hmm. Also,
I wouldn't
some
say
of them were... Oh, sorry.
No, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So it felt like kind of a sadder book. And I don't know if it's because I didn't see the ending, but I'm like, are they going to be happy in the end? Like, everyone seems so sad.
Well, yeah. I think that it definitely, not to spoil you, Yoon, but it definitely ends on a very healing note. I think that the point of the book is really kind of a healing journey for a lot of the characters. So it is quite depressing towards the beginning, I think. Because they're all like, they have various things that they're struggling with that have either traumatized them or they just feel like they're not good enough. They don't measure up, all those kinds of things. So I do think that it ends on a very positive note.
Okay. That's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
It's not depressing all the way through, but there's a lot of crying in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Crystal really liked it too. Yay. She says she liked the characters and getting into their lives, trying to kind of, as they try to kind of figure out what they want in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's a really good description of what this book is about. It's like about what do you want versus what you've been told you should do.
Right.
Yes.
And kind of figuring yourself out. What will make you happy, basically.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, like, the main character is convinced that she's happy for most of her life until our body tells her, no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And then the barista, Minjun, I think, he's also in that sense too.
Yeah.
And he's, from where I was reading, he's still kind of not settled in his job at the bookshop and all that.
Yeah.
And then they had that huge book discussion with the, like, why we want a job book, I think it was.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That was, like, one of the most interesting chapters to me. That was fascinating.
I think that this is the discussion that the author guy has with, like, the teenager in the bookshop, but I actually highlighted in this in my book because I think that this is the crux of the book. And the teenager says, I just want to enjoy living. And I'm like, I feel like that's what this book is they're going on a journey to find out, what does that mean for me personally to enjoy living? Because I'm trying what this person over here did, and it's not making me happy.
Yeah. It might make them happy. Doesn't make me happy.
Right.
And that's what the main character and her husband, she thought that the same thing would make both of them happy, but what makes him happy is no longer what makes her happy.
Right.
So that was a really difficult situation for them to navigate.
Yeah, definitely.
So, speaking of, I feel, because nobody can tell you how to be happy. They can tell you this is a successful career path. They can tell you this is how you make sure you can get a job, if you follow these steps, but they can't necessarily tell you, where you'll be able to live as a human. Like, I remember people telling me growing up that, like, the medical field is going to be a great place to get a job, but, like, I really have trouble with people in pain. So at some point I had to be like, I don't think I'm going to be able to handle a career in medicine. So I switched, but you just have to kind of figure that out for yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a quote. I don't know who's talking because I just, like, highlighted it on my Kindle. And it says, dreams can make you miserable. If you're chasing after an impossible dream, you can't enjoy everyday life. But if you feel happy chasing the dream, then that's also a type of happiness, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Crystal says, I feel like most of us can identify with a lot of the feelings in the book, from that lost in life feeling or feeling unhappy with where you currently are, that kind of thing. Definitely.
Yeah.
I felt like the book relatable. Like, relatable was the word for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. And very real too, I felt like.
Yeah.
Very realistic situations.
Mm-hmm. And even though, obviously this is a Korean book set in South Korea, like, because the United States is also a capitalist society, I think that there is some carryover with that.
That was a really interesting discussion. Did you feel like it was accurately representing, like, the pressure of performing well in a career or in the workplace, Yoon?
From what I'm not gonna lie, I forgot a lot of the details, but from what I remember, I did think that was part of the thing that I had thought was quite realistic, because I hear a lot from, like, my friends or just people in grad school talking about the job market, or just people sharing experiences on, like, social media, and it is very much the situation like that they talk about. But it's also, I think, I don't know how it's changed since, but a reoccurring problem right now is that there's so little jobs for newly grad people to try to apply to. So the job market is pretty much, it's
full.
Like,
it's
it's full. And it's like living in Korea right now is it's like, I think it's in the States too, but everything is just getting so expensive. Like that's also a big problem with the whole fertility issues here. Like it's so hard to get a house for yourself, let alone a partner or a child. So I did think it did show kind of the situation in Korea pretty well.
I was wondering as I was reading it, and Tiffany actually brought that up. She really wanted to ask you that. She was like,
"Yes, I did."
Yeah, that was her idea.
Yeah, because some of that is definitely true in the United States as well. But I do think that in the United States, at least in some areas, having more of like either a work-life balance or actually pursuing something that makes you happy seems like that it does exist in the United States. But when I see media in South Korea, it seems like that isn't as prevalent in South Korea.
Yes.
But I don't know whether or not I can trust just
I see it.
media.
You bringing that up reminded me specifically of the overtime conversation they had. That is actually like a thing here too. Like overtime is basically not considered overtime, is considered expected from what I hear.
Okay, yeah.
So that conversation with the guy who wants to be a latte husband or something, where he comes home late, he barely has time for hobbies, and then he has to go early again. I think that was pretty much a good show of the situation also.
Okay, yeah. I know that some careers are like that in the United States, but not. I don't think that that's a blanket statement in the United States anyway. So,
yeah, I think it depends a lot on where you live as well. Because our friend Stephanie, she has had to work a lot of overtime without overtime pay.
Yeah,
and and it also depends on if you're on salary, or not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. So definitely some similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
Take
think
my words with a grain of salt. I can't guarantee everything. I will say the overtime thing, I've heard enough that I feel pretty confident that is normal. A normal thing in Korea.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, do you think Yoon also, like the barista, he talks about like the pressures to perform really well educationally, so that way you can get like the perfect job when you get out? Do you feel like being in school right now that is like a really prevalent pressure?
I felt that more in undergrad. I think because of also like my major, because to be honest, I'm kind of in the I don't know what to do with my life situation. But I don't know how involved I would be with like the Korean job market with the major that I am. But for undergrad, when I was talking with my friends and everything, keeping up good grades or like part-time jobs to build up your CV and everything, it was very important for like sending out job applications or stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your experience, by the way. I appreciate that. You have insight we don't have. Yes.
Oh.
I think
yeah. Go ahead.
I think the bigger thing that I think is talked about here is the university name. Like that is definitely, I don't know. I think that's still quite looked at in Korea still. So like where you're graduating from, and the university you put on your resume is also a pretty helpful and influential factor.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
We have certain universities like that too, where it's like bragging rights. I went to Yale,
Harvard, yeah, the Ivy League schools, especially depending on what your chosen career field is. I think it matters more in some careers than others, but yeah.
True. Some schools, if you're like in football, it's like, oh yeah, I went to USC, you know, or something, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
Athletic stuff is huge too. I didn't even think about that, but that's really true as well. Like where you went to for school, if you're looking for an athletic career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was thinking like law and like practicing medicine maybe, or, you know, or even like some kind of like high level business job, like all of that. I think your college would matter a lot. But if you're going to be like a nurse, I don't think that matters as much because it's not on the level of like a higher level doctor or something. So
yes, there was a really interesting conversation it was the North Korean refugee memoir that you recently read, Tiffany. I'm pretty sure it was in that one, where she is dating a Korean. She's like a North Korean refugee now living in South Korea, and they were in love. She was in love with the South Korean man, but because she like didn't have a lot of schooling and like a career, they weren't able to get married because his family was like not like interested in her as having her for like a daughter-in-law. So that was like, wow, that was like a mental adjustment. But I think that also happens here. It just hadn't been phrased that way to me. You know, here we would say, I think the more moneyed you are in America, the more you travel in those circles. And somebody who's really has a lot of money in a high prestige career wouldn't necessarily marry someone from my podunk town, for example. It would be a totally different lifestyle.
You mean Kevin doesn't come from a fabulously wealthy background?
His family is more well off than mine actually was, but they are not snobby, so it worked out. They just want him to be happy. But I've heard of that happening here, you know.
Yeah.
So I think
again, I think it depends on like the level of money, or like I know there's pressure in certain families of like I don't know, like if your dad owns like a really like successful like lucrative business, you know, there is pressure for the children to take it over and to continue to do well. But I think that just because a parent has a certain occupation, they don't always think that their children have to follow in their footsteps in America. I think there is a little bit more of like following your dream mentality.
Yeah.
America is like a society of people who don't like to follow the rules. I mean, like we people left England and their home countries to come to America, you know, a lot of times. So they're kind of that kind of personality, you know.
That's the whole basis of our country is rebellion.
Yeah. We were settled, you know, by people like that, you know. But and Native Americans as well, you know, they did not want to follow the dictates of whoever was coming to live here.
Yeah,
they wanted to do their own thing too. So, you know. But so I feel like we've been on this topic for a while, but I just have to ask, this was so interesting to me. They mentioned that in that chapter about work, that they felt like all of the people in that book club discussion really felt like society was constructed to demand work out of us. So I guess we've sort of been talking about this, but I thought that was a really interesting concept because I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think societies are constructed to demand work of us? Is that like why we all have to work? Is that like the reason we have to work?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I think that a society does require people to work for a society to function. Because if you didn't have anyone who would work, you would not have hospitals, you would not have mail delivery, you would not have stores or restaurants, you wouldn't have anything. Like in order for it to actually be a society, there has to be contribution from the members of society. So I think in a way, yes, but I also think that there's something innate in us as humans that we take pride in like a job well done. We have a sense of accomplishment. I don't know if that's something that society has ingrained in us or if that's just who we are as humans. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know which one it actually is. But I do think that like it's not a bad thing that society requires contribution, because I think that can foster a sense of community. I think where it becomes an issue is when you feel like you have no choice in what you're going to do for work and there's no balance between a work life and hobbies or interests or things like that. That's where I think it becomes problematic.
That's so true. I've been reading Wendell Berry a lot lately, and he is very much like we have made the decision with the way American society specifically is going to value consumerism rather than productivity. He's like really like, we should all go back to being farmers. Like that is literally his theory, which I think is interesting. I don't necessarily think everybody needs to be a farmer, but he was like, it seems like our kids spend so much time at school, and when we're working out of the home, we're not spending that much time with each other, like our chosen people, versus if we kind of moved the center of life back to working within our family to create for us and others, like food, our necessities, that society would be happier and healthier. And that then the work would literally be, I am working to live, rather than my job demands this of me. It would be, no, we just have to grow our crop, whatever we're growing, and then trade it with society would look different, I guess. You would still have to work a lot, but maybe not away from home as much. You could be home more.
So is it kind of a pick your poison situation kind of deal where it's like, okay, but as humans, we do have to work, we have to, even if like I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I homeschool my daughter. So that's work. I clean my house. I cook. I did so there are things that I do. That's not like I sit around and do nothing all day. And I don't think that that's good for humans to literally do nothing. So it's kind of like, it depends, I guess, what you define as work and what you define as work that's worthwhile and fulfilling.
Yes. Yeah. Again, what will make you happiest? You have chosen a career, and you also are like providing spiritual sustenance and delivering food to the needy. Like you have a whole other set of jobs too, where you're providing for society in that way.
Yeah, that's true.
You've chosen your life because this is what is most meaningful to you. And I think you're very successful in that way.
Oh, well, thank you. But I think the same is true, like Wendell Berry talking about farming. It's like, that is the life that is most fulfilling for you.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that that's what's most fulfilling for Christy or Yoon or me.
Yeah.
So, what's fulfilling for one person might not be for someone else. So,
yeah. His whole thing is, we need to provide our kids with the choice to choose that, whereas now it doesn't feel like farming is a trade where it's like. So anyways, yeah, interesting conversations all of my reading is having with each other.
Yeah.
Hi, Joanna.
And I think all of those roles are important in any society where you do need people to grow the food. And even if we all went back to being farmers, someone would have to be a doctor, right?
Yes. Yep.
Even if we all educated our children at home, like someone would need to do, but we're never going to be in a place, I don't think, where everyone educates their children at home. So we're going to need teachers. We're going to still need mail delivery. We're still going to need other jobs besides just agricultural jobs, Yeah. So, even back in the agricultural days. Oh, yes. Crystal, that's exactly what I said to Christy before we went live, that this is the song. Yes. This is the song of this book.
It is.
Gotta get money, make purse. Yes.
That is the theme song. It really, really is.
But for Mad Libs, it was Gotta Die. It wasn't Gotta Work. That was one of our songs.
Oh
And it was Gotta Die.
Oh my god. I need to go watch it after this. How did it get to die?
Well, I asked for a verb, and that's what someone said. Instead of work became die, which really puts this whole book in a different perspective. Like, are you just working until you die, or like you have a purpose?
It went even darker.
It did.
Wow. It got a bit sadder, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. We needed something to lighten up this conversation. Thank you, Crystal.
Yes. Maybe we should talk about things we enjoyed about the book. Let's take it to a lighter note.
Let's backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel like we started off with the hardball discussion. Now we can just play. Fun. Ooh, okay. As a Christian, the verse about if someone will not work, he shall not eat comes to mind. Yeah.
Is this the Puritan aspect that the discussion brought up? I was wondering like what Puritan teaching they were talking about. But
yeah. Well, that's probably where the Puritans got it. Would be
yes, it was
something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone being a contributing member to society. In other words, there are no freeloaders. You don't get paid for nothing. Like, we all got to work together to make this work, kind of a thing.
I think maybe that got like worse because of capitalism. And just the way everything is just becoming like inflation, the way things are becoming expensive. And I think they talked about it, like things are getting more expensive, but their pays are staying the same.
Right. Yeah. Well, and Christy was talking about consumerism. So consumerism greatly contributes to that as well.
Yeah. If people are buying a lot, they're going to start charging more because supply and demand.
Yes. Yeah. Ugh. I've seen like some skincare products here that were not that expensive in the beginning, but after they became popular, they like upped the price so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm crazy. Contributing to that. I am sorry.
Probably.
After America discovered your amazing beauty products, we made everything more expensive by buying a bunch of it.
Yeah, we increased the demand big time. Big time.
Yes.
I've heard, because I've heard a lot of Koreans have like really sensitive skin, so it's made like way better than our skincare products are.
Yeah, it's definitely like the new trend, I suppose, is kind of making it like a skincare makeup. So that it is healthier, I suppose, and more and like kinder to your skin.
Yeah. People notice a difference. Jen actually, she couldn't wear skin products from America, but she could wear skin products from South Korea, like sunscreen. Nice. She could wear sunscreen from South Korea.
Yeah, sensitive skin, like vegan products, ingredients are really big right now, which is nice. Yeah.
Cruelty free. Yeah, she always looks for that too. Zero emissions. That's so true. Yeah, I feel like that's really true. I feel like it's interesting to hear you say the job market is so saturated, Yoon, because like there are jobs in America, but not enough people to fill them in certain sectors. Like in healthcare, there is a huge demand right now for doctors. Like there are no general practitioners in our area, and I don't think it's just us. Like I've heard that it's in other states as well.
Definitely.
But yeah, so it's interesting. We need some of your doctors, apparently. Spread the word.
I think too, like at least in America, there's a lot of need and demand in trade occupations. So people who are going to become electricians or plumbers or things like that don't require a college degree, but you can make a ton of money in that job.
I heard that.
It's not going to college. People are like, oh, well, I want the degree, or I need the degree to be successful, which totally does tie in with this book, feeling like you have to have this or you won't be able to get a job, when like there are lots of jobs, just maybe not in the area that you think is successful, but you might actually be able to climb the ranks really high somewhere else.
True.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's also kind of like, oh, sorry. You can.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, just super quick. Like, it also depends. I don't know how exactly it might be for Korea, but maybe they have requirements. Because I think, again, back to the discussion they had in the book, they were like, Minjun, was it? He was overqualified in terms of like where he went and his grades and everything, but he was underqualified in terms of experience.
Yeah.
Or things like that. So that like really makes it difficult. I think that's a thing I've been hearing from people. I'm not sure if it's the States specifically, but like in the West where it's entry level.
Definitely a thing here. Yes.
Yeah, it's like entry level, but they want like 5 years of experience.
Exactly. Yeah. That is totally a thing in certain fields in America right now. I've heard that a lot.
I've heard a lot, like one of my friends, like a lot of the people below her, she had to fire all of the Americans because her company was sending the entry-level jobs to like the Philippines and to other places because they were willing to work for less money. And she was really like, but she's like, I really, it's not their fault. These other people getting the jobs, it's my company making this decision. Now all of my friends are out of a job and I'm heartbroken. But also I'm glad that these other people have jobs now. It's just, it was sad that they fired all of my friends.
Yeah.
And that she had to do it, it was like, it was really hard for her.
Yoon, our water bottles like kind of match.
Oh, yeah.
The purple and the green.
They do.
Sorry. I just noticed that when she took a drink. I'm like, mine are like the same color.
Like, how is it? Also, it's like the same direction, right? Like
I know. Yeah. Purple on the top, green on the bottom. Mine's kind of glittery, so it looks a little mermaidy. But
love that.
Anyways, sorry. Speaking of consumerism.
Yeah, that's really true.
Mm-hmm. I loved this metaphor. I thought that this was a really like kind of eloquent way of putting it that I'd never heard anyone say before. The whole buttons versus buttonholes. Like that's a really good way to talk about it.
He was trying to supply something that society was not demanding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that also does happen in America quite a lot. People get degrees and things, and then there's no like jobs for those.
I see that. I had that happen with a lot of friends of mine, and I'm in like the millennial generation, and I had a lot of friends who got degrees and stuff that they just thought was interesting, but then they didn't want any jobs in that field. So then they're out like tens of thousands of dollars in student debt for something they can't even use because they're like, oh, I'm interested in this period of history, so that's what I studied. But they didn't want to be teachers. They didn't want to do anything with it. And so they kind of got like these obscure degrees and never ended up using them.
I think school can be a great time of like social, like self-development. They can be great for that. I know a lot of friends who like, they really enjoyed their time in college and it was great for them, but they don't use that as like a job. So they have like student loans and they're not paying it off with their, with making money in their field,
Right.
Jenny was having that problem too. Speaking of Jenny, she had a degree in history and she was having a terrible time trying to find jobs in her field. But yeah, that is life right now. But I've heard that the younger generations are actually kind of what you were talking about, Tiffany. They're like, I recently heard them referred to as the plumber generation because a lot of them are like, they have these school debts, but they're like, I'm going to go make 6 figures as an entry-level job, plumber. I'm just going to go back to trade school, learn to be a plumber and pay off all my school debt that way. And it works.
That's actually, my nephew is doing that. He's, how old is he? He's 24. And he never went to college. He got his high school degree, but then he like apprenticed with contractors. And let me tell you, this boy makes bank. He makes a lot of money. And he works really hard, but he loves it. And he has always loved it. And he used to always help people fix things up, even when he was like a kid and a teenager. So it's like he always knew that was what he wanted to do. So why waste money on student loans when that wasn't what he was even interested in? So, and that's kind of where, like Joanna was saying, it's a shame that there are certain types of work that aren't valued, because like we need contractors to build houses, to work on electricity, to do like, that's really important. Good luck, like having houses to live in without contractors. Yes. So like every part, like every job, like nothing is superfluous. Nothing is like, oh, this is a dumb job that we don't need. It's like even people who become like managers or own or franchise like fast food restaurants. You think that's not important? That's totally important.
It's like customer service, I heard.
Yeah.
Is like super important, but then it's like the way that cashiers, for example, at the restaurants are treated.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah. I heard someone say, and I agree with this, that everybody should work in retail and in like food service at some point.
Yes. I saw that too.
Yeah, because then you'll treat those people better because you know what it's like to be in a job. And I did both before I ended up working in banking and then stayed home. So yeah, absolutely.
Gotta work. Gotta make that money. Make purse. Yes. Now back to this. Was there anything?
30 minutes talking about work, but you know what? That was like a huge part of what this book was about. Was a work-life balance and like doing what society deems as important. Is that actually gonna make you happy? So it was all relevant.
Yes, I agree. I feel like that was like the main point. Like if we were saying, what's the main point? Finding your happiness.
Yes.
Kind of what that looks like career-wise is like a big thing.
Another thing that I think is a huge part of what this book was about, which is something I loved about this book, was the healing power of books and the way that books unify us and create community. Love that, because that's what I found to be true on BookTube. I'm friends with people I never would have met except for our shared love of books, and it's like made my life so much better and richer, you know.
Yes,
that's why I'm here with you guys.
I felt like she was making a community in her bookstore that like you want to be a part of, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Because she made it, you know, first about buying books and stocking books, but then it started as a way to draw more people in, but what it did was create community.
Yeah.
And books have the power to do that. I love it.
I really like the little, not like all the moments maybe, but just, for example, we had like her Sunday day off. I kind of liked how she kind of like really showed the importance of a day off and how she takes her time to relax, to like not make reading a chore or talking about books a chore or get tired of it. And just the little moments of her trying to curate her bookshop, I thought were really nice to read.
Yes.
I loved how she was, when she started her bookshop and stuff, where she had books on the shelves. There were books she had read. She wrote notes on her thoughts on the books and put them inside. And if she hadn't read them, she like found reviews and stuff. Reviews and stuff to put in there. And I'm like, every bookshop should do this, because then books are going to find their targeted readers that much easier. If you have people's thoughts tucked inside. I love that.
That's kind of similar to how I feel like I've been seeing some Barnes & Noble pictures of like the tag describing the book. But I think because it's like the younger generation or something, it's a little bit more unhinged for some of them.
That's fun too. They'll find their target readers through that too.
Yes.
I love that. Oh man. I love to. I experienced a time of like really high stress in my life where I wasn't reading much at all. And then I rediscovered my love of reading fiction. And when it talks about her coming back to reading after loving reading growing up, and then she kind of hit that rat race and was no longer doing that. Then when she comes back to reading, like her descriptions, there's one quote that says, "The books welcomed her back with open arms without judging the person she'd become and accepted her for who she was. Like a well-nourished person who ate 3 good meals a day, she grew stronger." And I love that. That was very relatable for me.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah, I felt like this was, I did feel like this book was like super healing in that way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you could just see her kind of rejuvenating from the beginning. She's not even sure she wants to continue doing this for forever. You know, she's just like, well, I want to do it for right now, and that's about all the bandwidth I have to think about. But
yeah,
books nourished her to life.
Yeah. And then that love and nourishment for her was like then contagious to everyone who walked in.
Yes. And to Minjun as well.
Yeah.
Helping him find something productive that he could do really well and enjoy. And now he has a trade. He can roast coffee and like all this stuff. Super cool.
I love the way it talked about coffee too. As a coffee lover and drinker, I loved all the forays into coffee stuff too.
Yes, that was so fascinating.
I am the target audience of this book.
Are you a coffee drinker at all, Yoon?
No, I can't drink coffee.
Me neither.
If I drink it, well, it makes me sleepy if I do drink it. So the point of coffee is just useless for me.
It doesn't work for you.
But also, it also works in the worst way that if I drink coffee at 12 or after that, it hits me when I'm about to sleep, so then I can't fall asleep.
So, I can't drink it later in the day either. I can't drink it past like 2. But
yeah.
Are you a tea drinker?
I would say I'm more of a tea drinker than coffee. I do enjoy matcha latte.
Yeah.
And milk tea.
Yes. Is that what you normally get when you go to the indie bookshops?
I normally will get, I have like 3 drink options. A milk tea, because I think every cafe will at least have that. I'd be super shocked if a cafe doesn't have milk tea at this point. Or like a strawberry yogurt smoothie. Or an aid.
A what?
An aid. So like, so it's basically, they make homemade like fruit syrup, and then they'll mix it with sparkling water. Or
like limeade, lemonade, like strawberry aid.
Yes, or grapefruit aid. I think
grapefruit aid.
Muscat grape aid is currently a flavor now because it's the summer.
Oh wow,
that sounds so good.
It's probably so much better than what we have here for like that kind of stuff in the United States. The fact that they're like homemade, like fruit syrups, probably taste so good and like fresh. That's
and
perfect
they made the
for
chunks
summer.
of fruit. Yeah, so when it's summer and I want like a thinner drink, I'll get an aid.
That sounds really refreshing with all the humidity you've been dealing with.
Yeah.
Wow. Most of the time, I can't actually eat at cafes because they don't have things like that. But if they had an aid, I would be able to drink that, actually.
Yeah.
Really good. Yes. Jojo is a big tea person as well. Milk tea.
Yes. Milk tea for the win.
Yes. Well, was there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about that you enjoyed?
It's not enjoyed, so it's not the question. But there was a quote that I thought was interesting, and I wanted to ask what you guys thought.
Yeah.
But it was when she brought the blogger who went like viral with the controversy.
Yes.
And then the publisher who sent the link said, my brain knows the blogger is right, but my heart is rooting for the publisher. And I thought that was interesting, because I thought he would have said maybe the publisher who sent the links would have said maybe like, my brain roots for the publisher, but my heart agrees with the blogger.
Mm.
But I was just wondering what you guys thought of the fact that the brain agreed with the blogger, but the heart rooted for the publisher.
I feel like probably what they were trying to say, like, was that, like, I know that the blogger is correct, but I'm, like, on the side of the publisher. Like, yeah, I like the publisher.
I wanted to ask you guys, like, who were you siding more with while reading this situation?
I think kind of, I think it's a better situation if they could just work together. They both have important components. You know, having like a well-written, like structurally well-written book is really important to have the correct grammar. And like, I am someone where if a book is grammatically incorrect or has typos or whatever, like, I'm annoyed. I'm like, why did you hire editors? Like, if it's like an indie book, then it doesn't bother me as much. But if this is from an actual like traditional publisher, like, there should have been more checks. You know? So I agree with the blogger in that sense, but there's also so much more to good writing than it just being structurally and grammatically sound. You could have a book that is written like perfectly no flaws and has no emotion in it. So both components are really important. And so is the marketing component of publishers. There's a lot of really great books that never see the light of day because they're like published independently and they don't have good marketing.
Yeah.
And they ended up working together, so it worked out.
They did. Yeah, it ended up being good. But I'm someone that the grammatical stuff actually does bother me. So I was on the side of the blogger personally.
I guess for what made me more the blogger side was just the response of the publisher CEO. Like, it kind of, the CEO from kind of made it ended up personal in a sense. And I was like, this is like a popular blogger, yes, but it's just the one blogger. Like, you're the CEO of an entire company.
Yeah, and he's also not like, hey, you guys suck and you're the worst ever. He's just like, you know, you should.
It could have been better.
Yeah, you could fix this. You should look at this before you publish books.
Yes.
And he wasn't even a blogger as a job. He didn't make any money from that. He had a whole nother job.
Yeah.
He did that for fun.
Plus, he also wanted to, like, kind of let the readers know, like, you could be reading this story much better, or like, you could be experiencing the story more effectively or more intended. Because I think it was for like translations. He was like, you could be reading this story closer to what the translation might have intended than what the publisher in his eyes felt like ruined.
Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with demanding excellence of publishers.
Exactly. Because it's like an established publishing company.
Yeah. Yeah. This isn't like destroying an indie author who asks you to review an arc or something. You know?
Yes.
Not the same thing.
And they're like making money off of selling these copies and all
right.
that. So
yeah. Yeah. I really liked the blogger a lot.
Me too.
And his story just gets better and better, I think. So, I really liked him. He was one of my favorite
literally Googled his name a bunch. I was like is this a real author? Like, I want to read his book. Like, I was really hoping that was one criticism I had, was I really was hoping for more like Korean literature. Like, I wanted name drops of good books to check out, but she kept mentioning like Western books. I was
I noticed that too.
But yeah.
I quoted a lot from them as well.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I felt like it wasn't just Korean focused. It felt like it was more well-rounded, I guess.
Yeah.
But, so if you're looking specifically for Korean like recommendations, you're going to get a mix.
Because like she mentions like Ketra and the Rye, which
a
is
lot.
a lot. But what was interesting to me too is that she said, I guess we're kind of foraying into this. She mentions that she basically, the bookstore owner, she's going to, I don't know if you're here yet in the book, Yoon, so I don't know.
Feel free to spoil. I don't mind spoilers.
She at some point decides not to sell bestsellers in her book.
I got there.
You got there. And she's like, that's basically not reading. If you're reading a bestseller, it's basically not reading. And I was like, what?
Wait,
how does that make sense? You love Catcher in the Rye, which was an instant bestseller. Like, you promoted this in your shop. So to me,
that was because she was saying that she didn't want to sell bestsellers if she personally didn't like it or something like that?
I think that's what
is that, or did she bring it up again?
What I remember her saying is that she didn't want to sell bestsellers that she didn't like or didn't feel like were well written. She didn't want to stock them just because there was a demand for them. She wanted to stock what she felt was quality literature. So
I don't know, because there was the whole movie theory too, that like she was like, oh, if it becomes mega popular, it's not because it's good, it's just because it was already popular and then everybody wanted to see it,
Oh,
so
also she said like the stroke of luck, right? Like if it pops up in a drama, it just becomes popular.
Right, yeah, that's how she knows when she's all of a sudden getting a demand for a book and people calling about it. It's because it was mentioned in a drama or, something like that. But the movie discussion, I think, was Minjin's friend that said that about how movies are popular.
That felt like part of the purpose of the book. Basically, that you need to read beyond the bestsellers list, which I agree that it's great to read beyond the bestsellers list, but like, it's fine if you enjoy the bestsellers list too. Like,
they are bestsellers for a reason.
Yeah. Because people are enjoying them,
Exactly. I think also part of it that I understand where Chrissy's coming from, because that kind of like decision to not buy bestsellers because she personally didn't like it or she didn't think it felt with her bookstore or bookshop, it did kind of clash with her telling herself like she needs to sell books beyond what she likes.
Yeah, that's true.
But
it does.
In that sense, it wouldn't hurt to have like a larger selection of bestsellers to keep the bookshop running, I suppose.
Or even just like a section of like, if you liked this bestseller, try this book, and trying to compare that. Because I understand her feeling behind like there are so many books out there that are so well written that no one ever finds out about. And I think that was part of where she was going with that, was like, I mean, The Catcher in the Rye, yes, is very popular, and that was just in her own heart kind of a thing. But like, also she tried to stock books that like weren't as well known or popular at the time, because she's like, more people need to know about this book. And I just went to an indie bookshop that just opened in my area last Friday, and I was so excited to go in, and there was not a single book there that I was interested in, because most of them were cozy mysteries or romances, because that's what's popular right now. And I'm like, this bookstore could use some diversity and not have it only be everything that looks exactly the same, because that's what it was. So maybe so I get what she's saying with that.
Maybe the bookshop near you, if it manages to like stabilize, maybe they'll start bringing in different titles.
I hope so. Because I don't think it's bad to have bestsellers, and I think that people are looking for books that maybe they saw on TikTok that are really popular right now. But I like the ability to go into a store and it have more of a wide selection than what, like, say, Barnes and Noble does. Like, like a more diversified experience, like what Crystal's talking about here, is they have the ability to do that because no one's telling them what they have to stock.
True.
So I see both sides of it. I don't think people are bad or wrong for just reading what they want to read if that's all bestseller stuff. But I also see like why someone would be like, but there's so much out there that no one's heard about. So I see both sides of the picture there.
Yeah. I have a question about the bookshop again. Sorry, Christy.
No, go for it. Yeah.
Does the name of the bookshop indicate that it's kind of like centralized on that genre? Because I know some indie bookshops sell only one genre, because that's like their specialty. Like that's what they want to be known for. Like there's this romance bookstore that became viral. So I was just maybe
Oh,
does
the
anything
one near
indicate?
me?
Yeah, does anything indicate? Oh, okay. So it's probably just to get some money for now.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. And it was the first day that they were open, so they may expand more.
Oh, true.
So I'm not like counting that out. It's not like I'm never gonna go back there, but I was like, there is literally I was gonna buy a book if I was even slightly interested in it to support them on their first day. And I'm like, there's not one of these books that I would actually ever read on my own. I left without buying anything. I felt bad.
Disappointing thing though when it's a bookstore and you can't find anything you want to read.
Oh well. I think that they have the opportunity to grow and develop. It was just their first day open, but
this is a really good point too from Crystal.
Yeah.
She's trying to provide something different. I mean, in my town, you can go down to the grocery store and buy whatever's on the bestsellers list. Like it's literally at the grocery store. So
on the grocery store?
Yeah, here too, actually.
There's a section with, and I never buy any of them because honestly, I'm never like, oh, that one sounds great. Like I'm just, a lot of them don't. But like my library also makes sure to stock bestsellers because there's always like 200 people in line for them. I think I'm coming at it from a librarian's perspective, but a library has a bigger budget than a bookshop probably too. So they can afford to have more variety.
Yeah. And they have more space. Most libraries are bigger than a hole-in-the-wall indie bookshop.
That's true.
Because this bookshop that I went to was tiny. It really was. They didn't have a lot of room.
Yeah.
So I think that they stocked what they like because they started different book clubs too. And they were all those kind of books. So I think they stocked and started book clubs of what they liked.
Yes, if you know a genre really well, of course you're going to want to stock all your favorites.
Well, and you have the expertise to then say, oh, if you like this book, you should try this one too because you've read them.
That's true.
So I don't think that there's anything wrong with stocking what you love and are interested in, so that way you're able to make better recommendations. I think librarians try to do that too, where they try to read a lot of the books that are coming in, or at least know a lot about them, so that way they can make recommendations to patrons.
I have, it's from a long time ago, but I remember my high school librarian telling me that she did that.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't necessarily read every picture book that comes in, but if somebody really loves a cute picture book, it's helpful to be able to recommend other books in that age range, that their readers might like, or chapter books or something like that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I guess it was more her mental attitude than her actual philosophy of the bookstore. It's your business. You can run it the way you want, but her attitude to me, because, some of my loved ones read mainly bestsellers, and I don't want to come off as snobby about that because even though I'm a big bestseller reader,
Also, I feel like bestsellers are a good way to introduce people who want to get into reading.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also like a big part why bestsellers now are bestsellers, because there's such a huge influx of
new readers.
New readers who they pick up the bestsellers, they find out if they like it, and if they don't, they get deeper into the community to find out what they might like instead.
I think a lot of bestsellers are accessible as well. So for someone who's not a reader, most bestsellers have a much more simplistic literary style to help people kind of dip their feet in and actually be able to comprehend it without it being this deep over their head. What are we even talking about?
Because I think you have to do that. But when you're reading for fun, it's nice to experience actual fun,
Yeah. And I think you're right too, Christy, that when it becomes a superiority complex, that's a problem. Like what you like, read what you want to read, but that doesn't mean you're better because you're reading. I read a lot of classic literature because I really enjoy it. But that doesn't make me better than someone who loves romantasy or loves cozy mysteries or no, read what you love to read. That's the joy of reading.
Yeah.
One's not better than the other.
Yeah, exactly. And if 50 million people are reading James Patterson and it's giving them so much joy, that's a great thing. Even if James Patterson is for me, you know, I mean, that's great. I'm really happy 50 million people are enjoying James Patterson and buying books.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
that I think honestly being popular is a virtue in and of itself, which is arguable. I think there's been arguments about that I've seen on BookTube, but being popular means you are vibing with a lot of people. So that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Okay, we have a couple. Oh no, are we at an hour already? We are. We're at an hour. Okay. Do you guys have a little more time for another question, or are you like, I need to go? I'm sorry.
I have time.
You have time?
I also have time. Yeah. Sorry, I think I kind of froze for a second or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You look fine on our end.
Yeah.
Was I still moving? Because it like crashed.
Oh my god.
It didn't look like it crashed on our end.
It looked fine.
Okay. I have time.
If it froze, it froze when you had like a really normal look on your face. So it didn't look like you were frozen. Yeah.
Okay, there was this quote in there which I thought I actually do live by this philosophy. What if you're not happy, they are not the people to keep beside you. Like, to some degree, I could see where that could be a slippery slope and could go too far. But I also think there is something to be said for surrounding yourself with people who make you happy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with this to an extent. And Christy and I were talking about this a little bit earlier with some of the relationships in the book, particularly the way that marriage is treated in this book, that some of the times it seems like it, like, I'm not saying that divorce is never an option, but like the way that it's talked about, like there's not a lot of communication. They just decide all of a sudden like, oh, our goals aren't aligned anymore. So that's it. And it didn't seem like it was actually really a commitment. So like, yeah, like I think that the people that you surround yourself with like the most and spend the most time with should be people who encourage you and make you happy. But like, just because there are some relationships in your life that are difficult doesn't mean that you should just totally toss that out. It means you should have boundaries.
Yes. Boundaries. I think that's something that a lot of people don't get taught, that it's good and actually very healthy, and it can be hard to learn how to create boundaries with people who drain you, but you might still have an obligation to that person, you know? If your aging mother drains you because she has dementia, you know, that doesn't mean you should cut her off. That means she needs a lot of care and that's draining. So you got to take care of yourself, but you know, you got to also care for your mom, you know?
Right.
I feel like I can kind of see maybe like a mild con to this mindset, because I feel like I understand where it's coming from, but at the same time, like what Christy just brought up, it can be kind of trigger happy maybe, like because depending like how relationships go, like it's not always gonna be happy or going well. Like friendships might go over a rocky situation, but then, you know, people always see that it makes the friendship stronger if they manage to get over it. So it's kind of like, if in the moment you don't feel like you're happy, you kind of, I feel like it can be easy to just drop it, but then it's kind of like you have to understand that it's not always going to be happy.
Yeah.
In the situation.
Yeah, I agree with that, because relationships take work, whether that be a marriage, a friendship, a relationship with a parent or a sibling or whatever. There may be times where, like Yoon was saying, where it's miscommunications, but there also might be times where someone you're friends with or someone you love is going through a really hard time, and it's emotionally heavy to support them in that time, and it is burdensome and it is work. But like, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be there for them because it's not making you happy. Because then what happens when you're going through that stage of life? You won't have anyone to walk through it with you because you're not that kind of friend to other people.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a balance there between toxicity and then actually like working on relationships. But those are two different ends, you know?
So true. It makes me think of Ayn Rand's objectivism, which is like, if you are not like, I feel like the way Ayn Rand approaches relationships was so harsh in like Atlas Shrugged. I don't know if you guys have read that at all. Okay, then never mind. It's basically like a very transactional relationship. Like, unless you are following kind of her ideas of what is good, you should just drop that person, you know, because you do not align value-wise. You know, it's like, just so harsh. I mean, definitely, like, if you're going to get married with someone, you want to make sure you are aligned value-wise, because otherwise you're going to have some major disagreements, and that's going to be rough. But
yeah. Well, it's kind of like, okay, so here's a good example with the marriage thing with our main character and her husband that she's divorced from. She's talking to like his friend towards the end of the book, and his friend says, he said that you and him made great partners, but partners can only stay together when their goals are the same. Because you two shared the same goals, you stayed by each other's side. But once someone swerves in a different direction, there's no choice but to disband. And that's how they're viewing it, rather than like, there's not really any communication about like, okay, well, like, because I don't know if you got to this point in the book or not, Yoon, she wants her husband, she quits her job because she's so unhappy and it's making her physically ill. And she wants her husband to do the same thing. And then they get divorced because he won't do that. But it's like, why does he have to quit his job because you want to live less that way? He still could. Like, that doesn't mean that you guys can't still spend time together when he's not working. That doesn't mean that you have to go out and work and have the same job as him. Like, there was no communication there. It was just as soon as she was like, well, he still wants to work in this high-end, like, really, really busy job, and I don't want to anymore. So now our goals are no longer the same. And it's like, that was a really big jump to go from that to be like, okay, well, we're getting divorced. Like, there wasn't a lot of communication or really trying to meet in the middle for either of them.
Yeah. And because they grew over time, they learned from that. And it was like, if they'd had more time, they might have worked it out. But also, they at some point that maybe they didn't really care enough about each other to make it work out.
Right.
So,
yeah. But I mean, relationship in general, not just marriage, but any relationship, there's give and take, and it is about compromise, because you're never going to be 100% on the same page with anyone ever in your whole life. Like, I wouldn't even be on the same page as myself 5 years ago. Like, today, Tiffany 5 years ago, we're not the same, you know, so we're never going to be 100% aligned. So relationship is about compromise. So when that goes out the window, then relationships don't have any commitment or like as much meaning to them, I feel like. Because you grow in the process of the compromise and communication and learning and growing together.
Yeah, marriage is supposed to be for better or worse. Like, it's not something you should just drop. This was a really good example of like, kind of, they end up really regretting the divorce in some ways. And even though it sounds like they might have ended up there, but I feel like it was a realistic portrayal of sometimes how divorce can be for people.
Yeah.
Where
that
a
was
lot
something
of
I didn't enjoy as much about the book. I didn't love that portrayal, but I did like that at the end they kind of, both of them realized like, we could have handled this better. We could have tried to communicate about this better. We could have tried to work this through, and we both just decided nah. And they both regretted that. So
that was really hard to read. And then the other woman as well, the coffee roaster, where she ends up with it, that was really hard to read too.
What happens? You can spoil what happens. I was very curious.
With the coffee
like, I'm not going to read it. Spoil it. She ends up deciding to get a divorce from her husband. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm sad about it, but I get it too. Like, he's basically just mooching off of her, so she's not able to handle his slovenliness, and all of his bad decision making is really affecting her. So I get it, but it was still really sad to see the relationship crash and burn.
Well, that was another thing where it was like, okay, she made a comment to him and he got mad about the comment. So then he stopped pitching in at home. And then she got mad at him because of his slovenliness. And it's like, you know, if you guys would just have a conversation about how you guys are feeling, maybe you could have worked through this. I don't know. I mean, it did become a really bad and toxic situation. So I'm not saying she should have stayed married to him. But it was, again, where like when he admits that, like, oh, I acted this way because I was really hurt by what you said to me. She's like, well, that's it. I'm done. Because that was a childish way for you to respond. And I'm like, yeah, it was, but you didn't try to communicate with him. And he's not trying to apologize to you. Like, if you guys actually communicated. All these guys need, like, marital counseling, really.
They do. And honestly, most marriages probably do need marital counseling. Let's be real.
I think so. I think so, because we're not born with the innate ability to be able to, like, communicate perfectly. Like, everyone communicates differently, has different communication styles. And this is, I think the same thing is true with, like, when we face things in our lives that are traumatic or difficult. I think every person could benefit from therapy because we're not born with coping mechanisms. We're not born to know how to handle intense trauma.
Yeah.
So there's no shame in going to therapy for your marriage or for whatever in your life, you know. But
yeah,
I guess these people have books, so that's their therapy. Oh my gosh. That's my husband. In case you were wondering.
He loves
He's
to
pretty
troll.
Great. I do love him, but no one does everything almost perfectly.
Was there any other things you guys wanted to talk about with this book?
Let's see.
Or were there?
I don't think, for me, I don't think there was anything else.
One of the things that I loved was I kept comparing this to a librarian mindset, because she feels in so many ways like a wonderful librarian that I would love to talk to. Like, just the way she has such a wonderful wisdom about books. I felt like, but when she's learning how to talk to her customers about books, that was super interesting. Like, don't share my personal favorites, you know, until you know them a little bit and you think, yes, this person will like the Ketra and the Rye, you know. So she put ask questions. She was like writing down how to deal with this. And she says, don't rush into a recommendation. Ask the following questions. What is a book you enjoyed reading recently? Which book left a deep impression on you? What genres do you like? What is on your mind recently? Who are your favorite authors? And I thought that is exactly how to come up with a good recommendation. I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
Gosh, Peter. She's in the kitchen all the time anyways. She doesn't need a clock.
Totally not.
He says while she's on a live show about reading books.
Yeah, not in the kitchen. The kitchen's behind me, though. It's in through that door right there, so I guess I'm close.
I wanted to ask you guys, what's a book that left a deep impression on you recently? Because I thought, oh, these are such good questions, but we kind of ran out of time.
Well, we are free, so let's get into it.
Yoon's like, let's go.
Yes. Okay, what's a book that left a deep impression on you recently?
I gotta look through.
I know, I'm looking at my Goodreads really quick. I have one that came to mind, but I'm going to see if there was one that was more recent than that.
Okay, sounds good.
Me too.
And if any of you had something else you wanted to share about the book in the meantime, that is fine too.
Okay, yeah. So I think this was my last 5-star, and it left a deep impression with me, and it was a Wendell Berry book. But it wasn't nonfiction, it was fiction. It was a collection of 5 of his short stories called Fidelity. And it's set in rural Kentucky, and that is currently where I live. So it felt like it really represented the community that I currently live in and like the feel of it. And I just thought it was really a beautiful representation of Kentucky, but also had some really deep, beautiful truths embedded in the stories as well. So that was the last book that left a really deep, lasting impression on me. And I read that in June, I think.
I love that. That's fantastic. How about you, Yoon?
I have two. Ooh. One, I guess I would say a bit deeper, quote unquote, than the other. But the other one's one of the most recent. It's The Monk by Matthew Gregory Lewis.
Yes. Oh, I haven't read that yet. That's on my list.
I had to read it for my class, but it was so much fun. And there's just a lot you can like analyze or read into it, which my like fellow students and I did. We had like super long discussions about it. But it was super fun, super dramatic, a little like scandalous kind of style. I highly recommend it. But the one that I'd say maybe that I can remember that left like a deeper impression is Little Mushroom. Have you guys heard of that one?
No, I haven't.
So it's a Danmei post-apocalyptic dystopian sci-fi novel.
Ooh.
And it just really left a deep impression on me because of the exploration of like humanity and relationships and just what it might mean to be human in a world like this and all of that. So the themes it explored and the relationships it explored left a deep impression on me.
That sounds super good. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Who is that by, Yoon?
It is by Shisi.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, is it illustrated?
Yes. No, not this one, but it's pretty short. It's got like 2 volumes for the whole novel.
Okay.
But yeah.
We should next year for k-tropeathon, if we have it next year. I'm assuming you all want to join me next year. We'll talk about it. But we should totally do a live stream about webtoons. Like, Yoon, we need to pick your brain about webtoons.
Yeah. I haven't delved into webtoons yet. I don't know where to start.
We need to do that.
Well, I can give some recommendations now if you
right
let me know what genres or tropes you like.
Please do. Okay, maybe we should do that off of what I guess probably people who are here interested. So yeah. Jump in.
Where do you typically read webtoons, Yoon? That you don't have to like. Is there a place you don't have to pay for them?
Naver app.
I think Naver Webtoon is the one that I think Manta Comics also has some of them for free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to try them for free before I try them.
Naver Webtoons is probably
the
best bet for, I think all, if not more of them are free than are not.
Okay.
Yeah. They have a lot. They have so many. Was there anything else about this book that you guys wanted to talk about?
I want to know a book that left a deep impression on you, Christy.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I should have looked at. Okay, well, when you were talking about Wendell Berry, that I'm reading his collection of essays called "World Ending Fire" right now. I think that's what it's called. I'll double check. And I really love his nonfiction. Yeah, The World Ending Fire. That's what it's called. I think I prefer his nonfiction to his fiction just because it's like his ideas out there very baldly, but learning about his ideas in his nonfiction makes his fiction richer, I think. Because portraying these families who are like living as farmers, like they're farming families, or the 2 fiction books I've read from him are about farming families, and they're far from perfect. They're not idealized at all. They're, soil, like, what do they call that? Of the earth. They are earthy people, It's definitely not idealized. But you see also the richness of their lifestyle, and I think that's something he's trying to convey with his fiction and his nonfiction. He's trying to bring farming back to like small farmers. So he's trying to say the food that's made in like industrial farming is not as good for our bodies, and it would be better for our bodies if we had small farmers, like because of what we'd be eating, and also because it's good to work the land. So I'm really like enjoying his way of looking at the world is kind of restructuring how I'm viewing the world. So I really appreciate that about him. And yes, in the comment section, this is great. If somebody else, like if Crystal, if you have something, please share a book that really impacted you.
You know, Joanna, I almost said My Antonia, but that was before the Wendell Berry book. So, but yeah, Willa Cather sticks with me every time. I love her.
Oh my gosh, I also read I Who Have Never Known Men.
What? Crazy.
I've never even heard of that.
I buddy read it with a friend of mine.
Oh, I love how you guys mail each other things. You and like you have like so a great book community going.
I have a question for Crystal on that book.
Yes.
If she doesn't mind me asking it in the live. But my friend and I weren't super into it because we didn't like or understand the importance the author seems to have placed on men in the story. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, you guys have to connect on Instagram. I feel like this could be an in-depth.
Okay, I will look into that.
Yeah,
I think she has the same username on Instagram.
Yes,
Crystal does.
Yes. I think the translation was really well done for the book, though. Like, we really enjoyed the prose, but we just we thought that the presence and the importance that seemed to be placed on men in both the title and in the story was like kind of taking away from what the novel seemed like and could have explored instead.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Oh, Joanna. It's only her second Willa Cather. That's really exciting. You have a whole world in front of you waiting for you.
She wrote a lot. She really did. Her short stories are great, too.
Yes, I need to read those too.
They're good.
I've not read them yet. Well, I think this was really great. I think that about, like, unless there's anything else you guys were like, I must mention this. I think we're about done. Like, yeah, an hour, 20 minutes. I'm pretty happy with that.
This was a great discussion. Thank you, Christy, for putting this together.
Of course. My husband is probably getting hungry. Are you getting hungry?
I was just wondering if you could clean the air fryer.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's all I need.
Yes, I will. I'll come out and do that. Yeah, I need to do the dishes. Well, we better wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for coming. Huge thanks to my co-hosts for doing this fun discussion.
Thank you for putting it all together, Christy. You're the best.
Yes, thank you.
The hostess with the mostest.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you. I was such a mess, so I really appreciate how organized everything was.
I'm amazed you even did in a live show, honestly.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm glad I was like, I need to at least make it to this one.
I'm so glad you did. It was so nice to see you.
Yes. And we're hope that next year we can do Mad Libs with you because
that
was so funny.
We need a Mad Libs Plave song.
Yes. I need to promote Plave.
Yes.
I was gonna do one and then I was like, but she's not gonna be here. So I didn't. I was like, that feels like a waste if Yoon's not gonna be here. So we'll save it for next year.
Yes. Hopefully there'll be more songs by then.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. They'll have another comeback, at least one, probably.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. I'm glad you enjoyed this as the group pick. And we'll see you hopefully next year.
Yeah. Bye.